Hector Lombard, at one time, absolutely demolishing people with tremendous physicality and equal ferocity in striking and grappling. But over the years, stories about Lombard's tendency to hurt his training partners have earned him a reputation as a gym bully. But as the story goes, there was one man who gave the bully a taste of his own medicine. None other than former heavyweight champion Josh Barnett. And it was so serious that Lombard not only left the gym, but in his next fight called out the War Master.
I want to ask Bellator for Sosi, hey, Josh Barnett, I want to fight you too. I don't care how much where you are. Josh Barnett, come over.
Wants a piece of Josh Barnett. I know he's in the house somewhere.
So stick around till the end to hear what happened. But first, is there any truth to these accusations about Hector? Well, I went on Reddit and found what some former training partners had to say. Axel004 wrote, I first met Hector in 2004. I was a jiu-jitsu white belt with about 6 months of training when he first turned up. Towards the end of class, we had free rolling and we partnered each other. This MF literally picked me up and spiked me on my head in what was supposed to be a friendly roll. I hadn't done anything to bring that on. Genova Witness wrote, old story. Hector used to train with us sometimes in Melbourne, Australia a decade ago. He would routinely injure sparring partners. My shoulder is still fucked from him hip tossing me randomly during an over-under drill out of nowhere. A lot of issues with him fucking training partners also and making shit awkward. High Technique wrote, when he used to train in South Florida with American Top Team, I was told by BJJ training partners whom also trained with him he would go to local amateur BJJ competitions and wreck unsuspecting practitioners. And back in 2012, UFC fighter at the time Jacob Volkman told this story in an interview about his experience training with Hector Lombard. Basically what happened is that he wanted to go wrestle one day. Now let me say a few guys pulled me aside and said to stay away from him in sparring because he throws to knock you out. He doesn't pull back his punches for his partners at all, which is fine, but I didn't want to deal with that. I had to fight Danny Castillo, so I stayed away from him in sparring. The next day, he asked me to wrestle and no one said to stay away from him in wrestling. He got on our own mat, warming up with hand fighting and takedowns. Then we went live after a few minutes of warming up. I was pulling on his head. I wanted to feel him out before turning it up. Then, he karate chops me on the side of the head and I'm like, alright, something I'm doing here is really irritating this guy. About 2 minutes later, he pushes me away and punches me right in the face with no gloves on. I go, what do you do that for? And he starts swearing and yelling at me and wants to fight me right there. So I'm like, oh, Jesus. But one of the coaches stepped in and pushed us away from each other. I kind of walked away and he kept coming, asking me to keep rolling with him, saying, what are you, chicken? Keep rolling, keep rolling. So I was like, all right, why did you punch me in the face? I couldn't really understand him, but eventually I figured out that it was because I was collar tying him. So I just stayed away from the collar ties and basically just did some hand fighting with him. I wasn't shooting or anything because I couldn't set anything up. He's kind of a hothead. Alright, so it's clear that Hector likes to train hard, is not forgiving to beginners. He has rejected the label though, stating he hates bullying, explaining how his father used to beat him up as a child, something that may shed light on the issue and the psychology of Hector Lombard.
My dad beat me up, wake up, 3 o'clock in the morning, my dad drunk, beating the shit out of me. And I grew up with so much violence. So I don't like fucking bullies. I hate bullies because I was bullied by my dad since I was 10 years old. So,
see, Lombard grew up in the face of violence in a third world country. He used combat sports, became strong, and channeled that violence outwards, making a career for himself. Although I've never trained with him, I did meet him in person and he seemed like a nice guy. There are stories of him being very supportive to his teammates also. And unlike some, I don't blame him for sucker punching Lorenzo Hunt, a guy who goes around sucker punching people himself. And I already have a video about that guy if you want to check it out. We know there's two sides to every story. So according to Hector, it was actually Josh that was mistreating his training partners, whereas he was standing up for the rest of the team.
I said to him like, bro, you're a piece of shit. He goes, what are you what are you talking about? I said, like, the way you treat these kids is fucking wrong. So he said, oh, you know, I see you sparring on Tuesday. I said, oh, fuck you. I spar you anytime you want. So we spar for about, no lying to you, about an hour and 20 minutes. And then he gave up. I was in a good shape. I was young. I was strong. I was a beast at the time. So he gave up. And he knows he gave up.
Oh,
a lot of people say, oh, you know, you're a liar. I said, like, no, he gave up. And I would look in his face and I would tell him in his eyes, you give up that day. He quit. He said, oh, I'm done. Bitch. I said to you, you're a bitch. So I said to him, like, I know it's scared of no man. And listen, if you beat me up, I'm going to come back with something. I'm going to come back with something. I'm going to set you up. I'm going to come back with something and I'm going to hate you so bad. You're a piece of shit. You're trash. So he had a dictatorship. People had to clean his shoes, wash his clothes. I mean, the whole shit was a joke down there. So I left.
Ultimately, who knows what's true? But no matter the reason, and no matter who's right, according to Josh Barnett, Hector Lombard was out of control and somebody needed to teach him a lesson. So I'll let their former trainer, Eric Paulson, tell the rest of the story.
Hector and Josh sparred really hard since day one here. Hector likes to throw hard. Everyone knows that. He likes to spar hard, likes to throw hard. So one day him and Josh, in a 5-minute round, turned a 5-minute round of boxing into a 32-minute round of boxing. And they just kept hitting each other harder and harder. And basically what I did is I just sat and followed them with a mop and mopped up all the blood because they were both bleeding. That was them full of piss and vinegar and whatever, and they want to do that. It's fight practice, so they're both adults. They could do that. So Hector likes to train hard. That's just his MO. And Josh grabbed him one day and brought him in the cage when I wasn't here, and I walked in, and he had Hector down, and he said, hey, you like to go hard? And Josh wouldn't let him up. Because Hector, they just have goes. So Hector never forgave him for that. And so it's been bothering him, and he told Josh that the reason he left here was because of that. He basically just had these bad thoughts from that whole ordeal, and he wars with everybody. But it was just that Josh gave it back to him.
Wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall during that gym war? If you enjoyed this piece of MMA folklore, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video with your friends. Until next time, I'm Checkmate MMA signing out. Peace.